Is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
Marshall Public Schools develops the potential of each learner for success in a changing world.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
And need a second.
I'll second.
Any additions? Hearing none, please vote. The agenda is approved. Moving on to our Tiger Spotlight.
We have a couple students. I don't believe either one of them are here tonight or today, but we just want to recognize Mason Penske and Kelsey Apple, who are our district's representatives, or were our district's representatives from Region 2AA. They attended a banquet in St. Peter on January 29th, where the Minnesota State High School League AAA award winners were honored and selected, and Mason and Kelsey are MHS representatives, so we're hoping they could be here today, but I'm guessing they both have activities taking place, so just recognition of them. And then we also have the opportunity to once again recognize all of our district office staff for the sixth consecutive year receiving the Meritorious Budget Award from the Association of School Business Officials International. We do have a certificate here that says this Meritorious Budget Award is presented to Marshall Public Schools for excellence in the preparation and issuance of its budget for the fiscal year 2016-17. The budget adheres to the principles and standards of ASBO International's Meritorious Budget Award criteria. Bruce, would you like to say anything more specific about that, or?
No, just not too much, other than it's really a recognition of the work that our staff in the district office does with the support of the school board and administration on a year-in, year-out basis, and we're very pleased to be able to accept this award again for the sixth consecutive year. It's a nice honor, and for our staff, a well-deserved honor.
Congratulations.
And like Bruce says, it is definitely a cumulative effort. We have a couple of the individuals here today, Russ and Jill, Elaine and Gwen. Tammy and Carla are not able to be here. Certainly Tricia contributes to that as well. And Bruce, thank you. But congratulations to everybody, and thank you for everything that you do for not only this recognition, but just all of the financial aspects of the district and more. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What? Oh, out of the way, yes. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Get my walker out.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
They're moving this. It's not like the Oscars. We gotta get in front of it, yeah.
Who wants to stand next to me?
I was going to say, we'll let you guys.
There we go.
Next row now.
There we go. Front page would be good.
Yours? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. Here we go. One more.
I'll give it. Oh, Mr. Monson,
All right. Okay.
you highlight Phil.
Hands get sweaty.
I'll do this.
I think motivational was the word you're looking for. This will be Tuesday's motivation.
Yeah.
I like my morning. 6th consecutive year. This could be your motivation for tomorrow morning.
So have you
What's
been,
tomorrow morning?
you mentoring Trump on tweeting?
No. What is- what's-
When you set out your motivational quote, you can
Oh,
use
there
it
you
for
go.
your motivation.
Okay, we'll move on to our public forum. Is anybody that'd like to approach the board? Now's your time. Okay, we'll move on to our presentation of our English learner. Welcome.
Hopefully, all of you have had a chance to meet Jim Gagner, who is our assistant principal at Parkside and also is serving as our EL coordinator for the district. Jim's been working in Marshall now since August. Is that correct?
End of July.
End of July, yep. And really focusing on our English learners and staff and just trying to do some really good things in there. And we asked him to come and give an update on some things that are happening. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Well, there's the first part of my presentation, Mr. Monson. So,
You're good. You're welcome.
anyways, I do want to thank you for letting me present about the EL program to you guys. I have a few ideas that I would like to share with you, and then, of course, if I could answer any questions, I would definitely like to do that along the way here. Just real quickly, just kind of an agenda. I do want to give you an overall EL, English language information, not necessarily Marshall, but kind of things that are happening that I know of nationwide with EL. Do want to give you an overall presentation on what we do in Marshall here, how we identify our EL students, how they become EL students, the services that we are giving them as a school district, exiting from our EL program, which is another big process. Some of our best practices that we're trying to communicate to the teachers and get out to have the Marshall Public Schools adopt those, and then answer, of course, any questions that you may have here. So, here is there a pointer here? Like that there? That's what I was looking for. Okay. So just real quickly, I'll try not to wander too far from the mic, but there's a lot of acronyms in the EL world, and in the education world. I serve half-time, part-time in the military, and they got a whole bunch, and I think education's slowly catching up and possibly beating them in acronym world. So, but there are a few key ones here. ESL, this is what I was kind of born and raised with when I first started education. It was always English as a second language for these here students. It did change to English language learner, and then a lot of the times we see just EL with English learners. I think it's kind of important. The Marshall School District is going with the EL acronym for our kids, but it's probably important to know all three of them in case you're reading any articles or anything like that. Even through the state of Minnesota, I see them interchanged quite a bit with ESL, ELL, or EL. And if you did a Google search, you'll probably find more information on ESL than any of the other three. So there's a few other ones in there, but I did want to highlight the SLIFE. And that's students with limited or interrupted formal education. And so that would mean that's a student that we have coming to Marshall here that has maybe started education at one point in time, and then they got out of school for 2, 3, sometimes up to 5 years. It just kind of depends. And then now they're coming back into education. So our SLIFE students we have to treat differently, and we're seeing more and more of them come around, as they come to our school. And then probably down at the bottom, the TESOL, Teachers of English to Speaking of Other Languages. And that's really our overall goal as a school district is we want all of our teachers to take ownership in that there and really feel like they're all TESOL teachers. So when we talk about that, we definitely have our EL teachers in mind, but we really want a school district to grab and embrace that and adapt that teaching model. Okay, so just some fast facts about EL. I think every number I throw at you today, you could probably start going up with that number as it just seems we're finding more and more about the EL. But right now it says that there's 4.85 million EL kids or ESL or EL students in schools today throughout the U.S. There's EL students attending schools in all 50 states. And the reason I put that up is I just wanted everybody to know that each state is mandated or has some sort of guidelines for EL services. They really don't get specifics, but every state's got something out there for EL students. 70% of them Spanish, 150 languages out there. Once again, you can start going up with these numbers. Something that makes sense here, we kind of mirror this here at Marshall, but 85% are pre-kindergarten to 5th grade EL students, which makes sense. They're coming in there with the language, and then we're getting them out of that. So any kindergarten student we have, we say 5 to 7 years of service. We'll probably have them out of the EL service by the time they get to that 8th grade time there. 350 refuge settlement agencies in 50 states. I had that number before Trump took office, but so we'll know if that's different. And then about 60% of the EL students are low-income families. And so just that we know that it's a little bit different to educate low-income families. Okay, and then just looking real quickly at the Marshall Public Schools. This is the numbers. I took these about the December time frame, I think. And these are the numbers that we had here where we're kind of looking at these. We need to look a little bit closer at them now as we start preparing for our EL services for next school year already. So kind of see there. And then probably one thing I should point out, we have 18 in 12th grade. That doesn't mean 18 of them are going to graduate. So we also have some other information that we need to share with those students and families when it comes down to that. Okay. So now this is just, I kind of wanted to give you an idea what happens when a student comes to our doorsteps and how we identify them as EL students. So and this is just part of the registration process through campus, that every student or every family that comes here to register, they'll take a home language survey. And these are the 3 questions that they're asked that we use as identifiers to see, do we need to move on to the next step of our EL service. I should kind of point out that we're driven by our EL handbook that we look at a lot, and we use these here. So we go through the home language survey, and then the next part is our oral interview that we have, and it could be with, a school administrator or the admin assistant that takes the kids in. But from there, they're going to ask 6 questions, and the questions are asked in English. They're not interpreted by an interpreter or anything like that there. And then we have a rubric at the end of our handbook where we kind of grade out the students, and then we can have a better idea where they stand, where they fall on this here. I'll just give you an example of one of them, like how long have you lived in Minnesota? There could be anywhere from no answer at all to I don't know. It could be, 2 years. Then when you get higher on the rubric, it might say 2 years, 3 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days. Then that student's really comprehending things and understands a little bit more. So just to kind of give you an idea, we can kind of get an idea where they go from there. And then this is the first assessment test that we give them. It's the WAP test. And that's going to grade them in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So it'll give the kids an idea, or give the teachers, educators, an idea where these kids stand after they take the WAP test. The kids are only given a WAP test once. So like if they come from, Wilmer, Worthington, or just another school that's considered a WETA state, which I think there's like 34 of them or something around there, they do the WAP testing, and it's only done once, so we get that information from another district, and then we kind of determine placement from there. So let's say we continue. We decide to place this student. We look at where they land at their WAP score. We look at their home language survey, their oral test, and things like that. And then I gave the middle school guidelines just to kind of put you guys in the middle there. But they can come in anywhere from a newcomer, beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And that's going to really drive how much services that we give these students with our EL teachers. And then that's what the middle school is sitting at right there for numbers. It's a little bit easier with middle school and high school because we have, first of all, these numbers are Marshall Public School numbers. It's not driven by the state anyway yet, but it's a lot easier to have that schedule of the bell ringing, moving on to the next class, and you can fit them in there versus like the elementary or Parkside and Westside where we got to work with the teachers to get those schedules in there.
Jim, can I interrupt 1 second?
Absolutely.
So let's say you're a beginner and you're doing 60 minutes, then the rest of your class time you're in the regular classes.
Mm-hmm. And then I should say that these are just the suggested amounts of time. So, I'll kind of use Parkside as an example. We might have 30 minutes of the time that they're supposed to be. Could be more, could be less. And I'm saying they could receive more because maybe we have a certain push-in or something like that. Depends on what I think is on the next page, what kind of services we are giving them. They may receive more or less. But yes, you're pretty much spot on with that's the time that's focused for the EL teacher to spend with that student in some way, whether it's push-in services, pull-out, where they just work one-on-one, sheltered instruction, or with the co-teaching. So that's the time allotted for that, and then the rest they'll be with our students in the general education. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So, if a student was to move here and like you said that a lot of them are born in the United States. So if they were born in the United States and they spoke English pretty fluently at home, but they were still put into ELL programs, how do you deter how do you get them out of that? Because if a student they feel like they shouldn't be in ELL, but
You really have to wait till the rest of the presentation. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It's a good question. I'm moving up to that there. So, but I do want to, let's say they do speak pretty good English at home. Okay, just to go off that there, I can go backwards a little bit, and then that home language survey.
Yeah.
Right there. That's some questions that are asked, like what language do you speak? What language do you speak at home? Is your primary language, and those kind of trigger it from there.
What if they come from a diverse family and the family itself they primarily speak a different language at home, and but around other people they just speak fine English and they speak fluent English, stuff like that. So.
And then we probably won't have them in ELL.
But
they would.
Okay, I guess.
Hey.
I mean, my brother was in ELL for a very long time, and he spoke we speak Arabic at home, and then but he speaks very fluent English, and he was completely fine. But besides, I feel like he would have been, or he feels at least that he would have been better off in the regular grammar class, and he felt like this was a big waste of his time. So he wanted, or I guess I kind of asked for him, but he really was wondering why he was kept in it so long and stuff like that.
James, can I answer that one?
Yeah.
You want me up at the mic or?
Sure.
Go, Jim.
Good question, Mike. Yeah, I know your brother, and he did not have it in high school.
Yeah,
So
I
he
know,
had,
yeah.
he had it when he was younger. And I think part of it is teacher recommendation and testing. And so we look at what they test at, and he'll get into this a little bit more. In the test, if you score a 5.2 or better, then you are taken out of the services.
Okay.
At any time, a parent can come in and say, I don't want my child in ESL anymore. So if your parents wanted that service to be discontinued, that could have happened.
Okay.
Okay?
And then, I guess this is completely unrelated, but let's say there's a student who just feels kind of uncomfortable with the whole program. Do you guys do anything to make students understand that this program is meant to help them, not to make them feel
Absolutely, absolutely. If you talk to, I have had students come in and say, I don't want ESL. I don't want anything to do with it. And so we've had people that have signed out of ESL, and I can tell you more times than not, in about 3 months or 6 months, they're going, Miss, can I come back into your room? I didn't realize what the program was like. In some schools, ESL is different than in Marshall High School or Marshall Middle School for any schools. I only speak to Marshall High School. And I've had students come out, and I've had students that decided not to have it. And either way, it's fine.
Okay.
As long as they're comfortable. But we also know that if a student is too low, the regular classroom is going to be hard for them to succeed in without all of the language that they can have.
All right.
All right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Vicki, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm
To the
Vicki
board.
Radloff. Everybody here knows me. And I'm the ESL teacher, one of the ESL teachers at the high school, and you'll be hearing from me after he's done. Okay?
Thanks, Vicki. Yep, absolutely. I'll just really quickly jump into this here real quick since you asked about it with the exit program. We do look at a number of things as far as exiting EL. Every year, I'll talk about this here in a second, but we take an access test, which the teachers are involved in now. I think it started January 24th. January 30th is when it started, and it's about a month and a half window time frame because it doesn't get done until March 24th that we have to access test with our students. We do look at them with their METCAT scores and some other scores. And then I think the big thing is we have to have recommendation from the EL teachers to exit them from the program. And then also we want our building principals to make sure we're signing off on that there. And then, just to make sure we're covering all of our bases, we want the parents and students also to understand what's going to happen when they leave the EL program. I think our teachers do a great job of explaining that and setting them up for success from there. Even though you leave the EL program, we are monitored. I think our handbook says that we're going to monitor them for 2 years, but I started hearing things about from the state that we possibly will be monitoring them for 4 years. So I just kind of throw 2 to 4 years in there as of right now. Okay, so we just briefly talked about some of the services that our teachers give to with our EL students. These are different things, and I do have an article that I will share with you that I'll give with you at the end to what works best for the students, and we really need, have discussions with the educators and classroom teachers and administrators and things like that to find out what's the best practice for these students. And this article does a pretty good job of explaining that we don't have that magic potion or anything. It does take a lot of time and things like that, but these are some of the things that we do offer here at the Marshall Public Schools. And I'm not sure where I wanted to mention, but this is a team with the parents and things like that. They do not have to have EL services. They can refuse to be served with the EL population. That is one of their rights as parents. So, and then just because I had room on this slide, I wanted to point out a couple other things that were going on here. We do work closely with Adult Basic Education. They have 3 programs that students can get their some sort of diploma or some sort of advancement if they're unable to graduate from high school here. One of our biggest problems at the high school is we have students that age out because we're only allowed to service them until they're 21, unless they're in school on their 21st birthday. Then we can service them for the rest of that school year. But there is a time factor for all of our kids that eventually we can't give services to them. And then we've been working really hard. A lot of the parent-student connectors have been working hard on some early childhood things, which I think would be a huge boost if some of these things could come up more. Just that gift of time that we can get with our kids. The more time we can give with them, the better off they can be. And then also a newcomers education program is something that I hope that we can kind of get in the future here in Marshall Public Schools, because I think it's, just talking to some schools to get them acquainted, they've been through a lot in the last, some of them are brand new to country and things like that, and just ways to get them better off prepared for our school district. So I won't talk about this here too much, but I said we're in the middle of this access testing. We do test all of our kids who are identified in EL grades kindergarten through 12th grade. The kindergarten test is a little bit different than the rest of the tests. Everyone else is in their second year of the computer-based tests that they're working on. The teachers do have to do a lot of work. They have to do a lot of training modules and things like that and able to administer this test. So it's something that it takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment on their part. And then it's just like that WAP testing where it measures you in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We can get more scores, more information on these kids and decide what's the best program, whether they're in that newcomer, beginner, or maybe ready to leave the EL program. So this test gives us a lot of information. Talked about the exit from the EL program. Okay, and then I just briefly wanted to touch a little bit on what I try to talk to teachers about, and if I'm doing an evaluation as assistant principal or anything like that. I think it's great that the Marshall Public Schools have really dedicated this to the SIOP training or the SIOP type of instruction that we give for our kids. And, just from spending about 17 years in the classroom, it's a lot of great practices that we can use. So that's something the school has done. Martina Wagner has been here and trained a lot of teachers. I'm starting to see it more and more in the classroom. Vicki and I just did a visit to Huron schools, and we felt that that was pretty evident there, and that they've had some pretty good success with EL and things like that. So just some really good things there. SIOP does have about 8 concepts or things like that, and then there's about 30, other modules, or about 8 modules with 30 concepts embedded into these. And it doesn't take a teacher that's been teaching too long to find out, like, oh yeah, I'm really using that idea in the classroom, and now I just need to make it a little bit more relevant and put it at the forefront a little bit. And so I think that SIOP brings out the best in some of the teachers. A couple of things that I do try to emphasize to the teachers is, just what can you do for an EL student? Remember, we all want to be those TESOL teachers. And so we talk about creating a language-rich environment for our students. Even if it's a world history class, a shop class, there's keywords, there's concepts. They should be posted on the wall. We need to be talking about those words. It's just our academic language that we talk about a lot. Simplifying our language, making sure that we're communicating with our students exactly the way they should be. We find that word families, proper usage of words and things like that there. This is a really great one. Sometimes I see teachers that might give a test and say, hey, you got, 25 out of 30. Really, what does that tell you? When we can give our kids, and this is just a best practice, give our kids really good constructive feedback on the test, or, what we did was wrong, or things like that there. So just some things for our teachers to look out for. We have a great teaching staff with our EL population, so I tell all teachers that if you have questions about, an EL student or an EL practice or things like that, these are the people that you can talk to. With high school we have 4, middle school we also have 4, but Megan is 0.5 here and 0.5 there. We have a couple at West Side. You can kind of look back at our numbers and see how they kind of jive with the teachers, and then 4 of them over at Parkside. I always encourage our teaching staff to work with our parent-student connectors, who have been really, really valuable, especially along the times of conferences, registration, and then when these kids really want to try to do something new or step outside that box and be involved in athletics or something like that there. Parent-student connectors are really good about getting a lot of things done. And then, of course, I'd like to help any way I could for our teachers also. So I will answer any questions, and then I'm going to kind of turn it over to Vicki.
You had talked about the newcomers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to get that started?
I need probably some really good ideas. I know it would take some staff to manage that, and then kind of what we want to do. Ever since I took over this position, I also serve at the 185th, and in a guard weekend, there's about 10 educators that I sometimes bump into and talk that there, whatnot. Some of the schools have night programs for our newcomers. Some of them involve the parents all the way through the children. It's just something that I think we just got to have the support and then the idea to just kind of move forward. And then, I think it's going to be like with everything else that we do. What's going to work best for Marshall? I could see myself adopting some sort of program and then really trying to tailor fit it to Marshall here.
Are you intertwined with Pat Thomas's work? You said adult music. She's been at it a long time.
Yep.
And she's made some of those great connections you're talking about.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Does any part of your program involve fellow students, or does that just naturally happen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll listen to Vicki.
Sure. Okay.
And then you probably have more questions.
One other question. Do we have enough staff for the student population, real population, Jim?
I think right now we're sitting pretty good.
Okay.
With our numbers and with the services that we're able to provide. I'll be honest, one of our biggest challenges right now is our space. And so we can choose what service we would like to give the kids. Sometimes we don't have the space to service them exactly the way we want to, if that makes, so.
And as we go forward, Bill, it's the paperwork. It depends upon if you want us to be teaching or being administrative paperwork. That's a big deal right now.
Like special ed.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff going on. And I'm not complaining, I'm just saying that's the future of where we're going. Jeff, you asked about a newcomers program, and I have lots of ideas for that. We've talked about it several times about maybe having, when a new student comes in, having a place where they can go so they have all those shots and all those things taken care of. They stay in a program, let's say they come halfway through the quarter. They stay in that program until they can prove that they can go to the middle school or high school. It's not so much in the grade school because you're still learning pretty much with your peers. You may be 2 or 3 years behind, but when you come in the high school or middle school with 5 years, no schooling, it's a little bit difficult. So it would be an earning to get into the high school. And maybe there's some psychological help that you can get and cultural things that I see as something that would be part of their day to learn. So now I'll start what I was really going to say. Hi. Thanks for allowing me to come in and talk. Jim has pretty much covered the process. I want to talk a little bit about the product that we have from Marshall High School. You guys have all heard me before. I've been here for several years. One of the first days I met Scott Monson was I came into his office and said, so here's a list of things in this community that I want to connect with. I want to work with all of these groups, like you said, ABE, and a lot of different groups. And so we're getting there. Baby steps, but it's working, and it just takes a little bit of time. Here's just a few highlights. When I first started, we had 5.5 teachers. Now we have 14. Of course, our population reflects that, so we needed that, and that's because of you guys allowing us to have more staff and recognizing that we needed to do that. We have a lot of our teachers with master's degree, and some of them with more than one master's degree, and working towards getting their master's degree in ESL because now we have it over at SMSU as part of the program. We have a summer program that we didn't have before. We start now with our 8th graders going into 9th graders, so when they come into 9th grade, they already have 1 credit, which is huge for kids who may be credit deficient before that. We have busing, which we didn't have before 8 years ago when we first started talking about it, and that's all because of you guys and us coming and asking for it. So we thank you for that. We have the CNA and the welding, like Bill talked about. When I started, I was working with ABE, and Pat Thomas said, "You're going to teach CNA," and I said, "You're nuts. I don't know anything about health care." I took the books home and I read them, and I did all of the vocabulary, and then we had a nurse that started. Then we moved that baby into Maytech, and that was a hard baby for me to give away because it was just still in its infancy, but it's been a great program. I would still like to see 2 more things out there. This is on my wish list. I have kids that would love to be auto body mechanics and cosmetology, those 2 things in the future. I have lots of kids who are interested, and they could probably make it part of their high school credits and still move forward. I have a boy right now from Honduras who used to work as an auto body mechanic and comes to school every day now here, and he's like, "I need to be doing stuff." That's his MO, is working like that. He started when he was 14 and 15, now he's 16, 17, and school is not really his forte. It's sitting and learning English from me, even though it's entertaining, because it's me. But no, he'd like to be doing other things. When I started, we said when you finish or if you finish high school. Now we say when you go to post-secondary school, whether it's a 2-year program or a 4-year program, you will do something after high school. Those kids have hope. They have things going on. If you guys remember when the DREAM Act came in, we got a lot more of our Hispanic speakers going to school. We have CNAs out in the community. We have lots of people doing different things. If you go to any of the businesses in town, you'll see a wide variety of kids working there now, which you didn't probably see 8, 9, 10 years ago. We've worked hard with the relationship with the college. David Vikander this year had a FAFSA program just for our students. One of his graduate assistants is a girl named Marley who graduated from our high school. Go get her, and she came in. I can't say she was mine because she was Miss Bukowski's student, but she set it up. We got Candace Thomas with Literacy Volunteers of Minnesota. They served the food. They provided the rides, and that is going to be, I think, a sustainable program that well after all of us are gone, that will keep going with the college. In the high school, which is what I can talk to, we have Carrie Loft who does the entrances, like you saw here, and the WAP testing. WAP is a great thing because it's pretty much nationwide. We never had that before. Kids would come in and we wouldn't know where they were. Do we put them in beginners? Do we put them in intermediates? And we would kind of guess by the thing, and now we don't have to guess anymore. This is where they belong. Becky does the exits, like you talked about. And Megan and I right now are doing the FAFSAs, the scholarships, and the applications to college. And so everybody has a part. And as we go forward, I'm looking at a 3-year plan. I'll be out of here, and Megan will take that over, and then that succession has started. It's nice because it's not one person doing all the work now. We have 5 professors that come and work as volunteers in our classrooms. They also have their students come over and work 10 hours or 30 hours, depending on the course. I have volunteers from last year that came back this year, not because they have to, because they want to. Right now at the high school right now, at this very moment, I have 2 volunteers working with kids with homework. Upward Bound, another great program, is helping us out. We're making that so it's a big spoke kind of thing happening. Let me see where I'm at. Like James said, we went and looked at other programs, and the programs are good, and we got some really good ideas, and I'm glad you guys let us go. But we also realize that we have a lot of good things going on here. And I always say, we're not Worthington, Huron, whatever. We are Marshall. And let's be proud of who we are, because we're doing great things, guys. We're also known internationally because every year the college has some students come from Rajabat University. I learned to say it after 4 years. Rajabat? I don't know. I'm close. And they bring their master's or doctorate program in and come to our school all the time. Now, would they do that if we weren't a quality school? I don't think so. I think they spend an afternoon with us. They take 1,000 pictures. I'm not kidding. I don't like that part. The rest of it I like. But they come in and they watch us teach, and they're snapping pictures of us working with the kids. It's amazing. We continue to work with the ABE, and our 19 to 21-year-olds, I send over transcripts. They look to see what we can do, what we should have those kids working on, so that they can get closer to graduation. We have one young man right now who will be 1 credit short, and he just got here last year. So he's really working hard to get it. We got to give him some kind of hope that he's going to be successful within this summer. New acronym for you. Jeff.
Matt.
Yeah.
It's Matt.
Matt's the acronym guy? You saw all those. Here's a new one. I'm on a committee called the English Learners Stakeholder Input Group. And what that group does is they're talking about legislation and what's happening up at the Capitol and what we're doing as a Minnesota state. And one thing they're looking at is now the access has been on the computer for a couple years. And so this year it's going to be normed. You guys, what's the word? Psychometricians or whatever that word is? That's a bad word for me. Anyway, the number people are saying that we've had it set too high. So this year, when you see our results this summer, they are probably going to be lower. I'm going to tell you that. But they're going to be lower statewide because they're changing the access test and what they think it should be.
Making it more realistic.
Making it more realistic because they've had 4 years of data now to see where it's at. That makes me a little nervous. I think our kids are going to be a little upset if their scores go down. But we're already starting to talk to them about that and what that might look like. A couple of things I'd still like to do. Years ago, we used to participate in the Day at the Capitol, which is coming up in March. I used to be able to take speakers up there through ABE, but I also took some high school students there one time, and they get to meet with the legislators and senators. We set up appointments. They listened to the speakers, and then we had individual meetings with them. I think that's a powerful statement for our kids and for the state to know where we're at and what our kids are doing. I think I'm about done. One more thing I wanted to tell you is before I came up here today, I called or I Facebooked, because everybody Facebooks and whatever, Snapchats. I'm not a Snapchatter. And I asked a couple of our kids that have been here in the past what they're doing now. So that's our product I wanted to talk about. We have an airline pilot. One of my toughest kids is an airline pilot now. So I have another one in school. I think maybe someday you'll be an airline pilot. We have kids that are finishing up. I don't know if you guys remember Timmy Vang. Yep. He was a football player. And he couldn't play football the first year because he had to go home and take care of his little brother. And Terry Ballman made his little brother the equipment manager. And now he's finishing at Crown College. You knew I'd cry sometime during this presentation. And we just have a lot of cool kids doing a lot of neat stuff and graduating. And I say we used to be, 10 years ago, we used to be a hamburger joint. Now we're about a 4-star restaurant. We're more flavor, we've got more texture to what we're doing, and we're coming along really, really well. And it's all because you guys listen to us and let us be successful. Thank you.
Timmy Vang had the best smile in the world.
He, you know what, at Crown, he is one of their ambassadors. If they want new people to come in, they get Timmy to talk to him because he's just a great kid. So, and we've got a lot of great kids out there. But one of our girls is a real estate agent in South Dakota at Sioux Falls. So they're all doing really well, most of them.
How's Muna doing?
Muna's doing great. She's in her 3rd year. Good. Her and Hussein went with me, if you can believe this, to Astoria, South Dakota, small town, full of Norwegian farmers, all Lutherans, yeah, good Lutherans that we are, and they spoke on being Muslim to the church. And the day we were sitting there in church, Muna looks down at her phone and she said, "I don't have any service here." And I said, "Yeah." and
South
those
Dakota.
two were like, my mom wasn't really sure, but Mrs. Radloff said it'd be okay. So we came and they did it, and they did a great job. It was so we are getting out there. People are beginning to understand and know everybody, and know that we're all just the same. It's just our color may be a little bit different than everybody else. Did you have
When I
anything
had
else?
my office at the high school, she bleeds for her kids. She is so compassionate, Vicki, and I can do this. Nobody loses in her program. She's a plus for us.
When you get all done with your life, you can look back and say, my life did mean something.
Yeah.
So, and I'm so happy to see the program advance as what it has. I've
Yeah.
been around for a long time, and how we used to just not give it much funding to see the results. It's just great. It's a great, makes me feel good.
There's an African saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think we're doing that. We're going as far as we can with what we have, and we keep trying. We'll
Thank
keep
you. Nice
pushing
job.
it and work. But we have to thank a lot of people in the community because they're all working with us to do what we do. And they're all very important people, and it's very good to have them with us. So next time I go to Scott's office with the next list, maybe, no. But yeah, those are my ideas. I wish we could somehow get some of that to work. Also, the blade industry, because my husband fixes the blades. A great industry for some of our kids to be in and make good money and learn about different composites and that type of stuff. Any of those things would be excellent programs for us to have. Any questions?
But just keep hassling these guys.
Yeah.
I think, Jim, the piece that you brought up earlier is one of the initiatives that we're looking at with facilities in terms of Parkside for early childhood, but how huge that is. I look back to the time when we went all-day kindergarten, about 10 years before the state did, to make a difference for that group of have-not kids. So this would be the next step.
Right.
Not just the kids, it's the families.
Well, and there is some monies available from Title III for pre-K. Am I speaking out of turn?
I mean, let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, because that's part of that LSIG thing that I'm part of.
Probably
but-
pretty minimal.
Yeah, I don't know that it would pay even for a teacher, but I mean, it's, and with the facilities you would need and that type of stuff. So, I thank you.
Thank
you.
My
Vicki.
students, thank you. I did print off just a couple things that people wrote me, so I'll just pass them around so you could share.
Any other questions or anything?
Give one of these to the paper there.
Huh?
Give one to the, yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, I'll echo Vicki's thoughts. Thank you guys for everything you're doing
Thank
for
you.
the program and the kids.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank both of you.
Board forum, it's time for the board. Do you have anything to bring up? Discussion items or budget parameters?
If you take a look at the attached document, it's not an action item per se. Each year, we ask you to, we bring forward, I guess, recommended ideas in each of these parameters, things like, what is our, what are we estimating for staffing costs in terms of through negotiations? What do we anticipate for per pupil funding changes? Here's what our enrollment might look like. What do you want us to build in for general inflationary costs and whatnot? So really 7 or 8 factors or budget parameters that we're going to continue discussing, continue working on, and Mr. Lamprecht and I will have a recommendation for you at the February 21st school board meeting on each of these items. So information that we're moving forward, planning for next year's budget. At that meeting, we'll also, I'll also ask you to discuss, and maybe we'll just review the list from last year of here are some potential priorities. How do you wish to take a look at these or make some more important than others as we start to delve into next year's, the 2017-2018 budget? What do you wish us to focus on? So informational today, hopefully a lot of work happening on February 21st, which is the next meeting.
Very good. Questions? Update on the facilities referendum.
The initial mailing was sent out to district residents last week, so thank you to Tricia and others for getting that organized and helping us get that mailed out. We did have some emails and phone calls from different residents who were asking for more information. I believe as of today, we've responded to all of the inquiries that we've had and answered questions and provided additional information. The website, including the tax impact calculator, is up and running, and there's some information on there that we'll continue to update and build off of. We're waiting on updated drawings and schematics, if you will, from our architects that we'll include in our information, likely in the next informational mailing, which, Tricia, do we have a approximate time on that yet?
We're hoping in maybe the next 2 to 2.5.
Okay.
Will that include the tax impact?
I think, we want to share that,
Because there are questions
yes.
out, not everyone accesses our website.
Yeah.
And that question is out there.
Would you like to see it different than what it is?
We do have the tax impact calculator.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at what we used last year, and
$50,000 house, like we did before.
we'll take a look at what we used last year and make sure that we're trying to get information
That's the
out.
kind of question I'm getting.
Yeah.
We will have a legal mailer that goes out probably within the next month that will contain a legal notice that has some of that information.
A legal notice, right? Not an
Illegal.
not an illegal notice.
I did catch that
A
too.
legal notice.
Her notice is legal, but your tweets are not.
Mine, well, hey, come on now. So we're just really trying to focus on getting information out, answering questions, being responsive. Certainly we're available for presentations and whatnot, and we've got some time yet, but we really want to continue to get going on this.
And you had sent out a request for us as board members to help with presentations. Do you want us to tell you when we're available or what?
Yeah, you can communicate that to Tricia.
Okay.
Have you had a lot of inquiries since that mailing, or?
No,
Just a
probably
few.
less than half a dozen.
Okay. Moving on to our summary of Superintendent Monson's evaluation, I do have something I'd like to read. The Marshall Public Schools Board of Directors completed a mid-year evaluation of Superintendent Monson for the first half of 2016-17 school year. The evaluation focused on professional standards and professional goals. Regarding professional standards, the board determined that Superintendent Monson's performance met and often exceeded expectations in the areas of instructional leadership, school board relations, educational needs, and community relations. Ratings in these areas range from meeting expectations to outstanding performance. The board determined that Monson has met and exceeded expectations relative to progress on mutual goals set by the board in August of last year. These goals focus on facility planning, on strategic planning, and additionally, Monson is also focusing on student achievement. The board will continue working with Superintendent Monson over the remainder of the school year to review his performance and monitor progress on goals, and looks forward to working together to make our district as successful as possible. And on top of that was an outstanding review. Any other discussion on that? Looking at our review of our policies of 518 to 523, this would be our second reading. Anybody have any additional questions on any of those readings? School board reps, what would you guys like to bring up? Did you check out the school system down in St. Thomas? No? Okay. Anything you guys like to bring up?
Snowy coronations today if you guys haven't heard. So they'll be crowning the king and queen and princess tonight. I'm emceeing, so be sure to be there. It'll be a ton of fun. Starts at
You're
7
the
o'clock.
MC?
Yeah,
What time does it start?
7 o'clock, I think. I hope.
Do you have a date, Lane?
Actually, yeah, I got asked today, so.
Valentine's Day is next Tuesday too, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Anything else you guys like to bring up? Very good. Very good. Meeting's over. Thank you.
Go to make arrangements.